Have you ever wondered what it truly means to be alive? Not just existing, breathing, going through the motions, but really living with every fibre of your being. Today, we're diving into one of literature's most explosive celebrations of human existence, a book that will challenge everything you think you know about life, passion, and what it means to be human. This isn't just another book summary, this is your invitation to discover a philosophy that could completely transform how you approach every single day. Zorba the Greek stands as one of the most powerful and transformative novels ever written, a literary masterpiece that has captivated readers across generations and cultures. Published in 1946 by Nikos Kazantzakis, this extraordinary work emerged from the turbulent landscape of early 20th century Greece, carrying within its pages the raw essence of Mediterranean passion and the eternal struggle between intellect and instinct. Kazantzakis, himself a philosopher and writer of immense depth, crafted this novel as more than mere entertainment. He created a philosophical earthquake disguised as a story, a work that challenges readers to examine their own relationship with life, death, passion, and meaning. The book draws heavily from Kazantzakis' own experiences and his deep understanding of Greek culture, philosophy, and the human condition. Set against the backdrop of Crete's rugged landscape, the novel presents us with characters who embody fundamental aspects of human nature. The story operates on multiple levels simultaneously, serving as both an adventure tale and a profound meditation on existence itself. What makes this work particularly remarkable is its ability to translate complex philosophical concepts into vivid, accessible human drama. The book's enduring popularity stems from its universal themes wrapped in distinctly Greek cultural packaging. Readers worldwide connect with its exploration of freedom, friendship, love, and the courage required to live authentically. Kazantzakis doesn't offer easy answers or comfortable platitudes. Instead, he presents life in all its messy, beautiful, tragic, and glorious complexity, forcing readers to confront their own assumptions about what constitutes a meaningful existence. The narrative unfolds through the eyes of an unnamed intellectual narrator, a bookish young man who represents the overthinking, cautious side of human nature. This narrator encounters Alexis Zorba, a larger-than-life Greek peasant whose approach to existence stands in stark contrast to the narrator's cerebral worldview. Their unlikely friendship forms the emotional and philosophical core of the entire work. When the narrator decides to reopen a lignite mine he has inherited on the island of Crete, Zorba volunteers to help with the project. What begins as a business partnership quickly evolves into something far more profound. Zorba becomes both friend and teacher, introducing the narrator to a completely different way of experiencing reality. Through their interactions, Kazantzakis explores the tension between thought and action, restraint and abandon, safety and risk. The mining venture serves as the practical framework around which deeper human dramas unfold. The two men encounter various local characters who each represent different aspects of the human experience. There's Madame Hortense, an aging courtesan who embodies both the beauty and tragedy of love, the widow whose story reveals the devastating consequences of societal judgment, and various villagers whose lives intersect with our protagonists in meaningful ways. Throughout their time together, Zorba consistently challenges the narrator's intellectual approach to life. He demonstrates through word and action that existence is meant to be felt, experienced and embraced rather than merely analysed and understood. The story builds toward multiple climaxes that test both characters' philosophies and force them to confront the ultimate questions of human existence. The novel's power lies not in its plot alone, but in its ability to make readers question their own choices and assumptions. Kazantzakis uses the relationship between these two men to explore themes that remain relevant across cultures and generations, creating a work that functions as both entertainment and philosophical treatise. The first major event occurs when the narrator meets Zorba at Piraeus harbour. This seemingly chance encounter sets the entire story in motion and establishes the fundamental dynamic between the two characters. The narrator, preparing to leave for Crete, is immediately drawn to Zorba's magnetic personality and unconventional wisdom. Zorba's spontaneous offer to accompany the narrator and help with the mining project represents the first of many impulsive decisions that will shape both their destinies. The second significant development happens when they arrive in Crete and begin assessing the mining operation. Here, Kazantzakis uses the practical challenges of the mining venture to explore deeper themes about human ambition, the relationship between humans and nature, and the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical experience. Zorba's hands-on approach contrasts sharply with the narrator's bookish understanding of the world, setting up ongoing tensions that drive the narrative forward. The third major event centres around their relationship with Madame Hortense, the ageing French courtesan who runs a local hotel. Zorba's romantic involvement with her reveals his capacity for genuine human connection despite his seemingly casual approach to relationships. Through this relationship, Kazantzakis explores themes of aging, dignity, love, and the human need for companionship. Madame Hortense's character serves as a bridge between the two men's different worldviews. The fourth crucial event involves the tragic story of the young widow in the village. This subplot reveals the darker side of traditional Greek society and the sometimes devastating consequences of social judgment and religious orthodoxy. The narrator's attraction to the widow and the violent reaction of the villagers force both men to confront the harsh realities of human nature and societal constraints. This event serves as a turning point that deepens the philosophical discussions between the two main characters. The fifth major development occurs when Zorba attempts to build a cable railway system to transport timber from the mountain forest to the coast. This ambitious project represents Zorba's belief in taking action despite uncertain outcomes. The spectacular failure of this venture becomes a metaphor for the human condition itself, illustrating how failure and success are both integral parts of the human experience. Zorba's reaction to this failure demonstrates his philosophy of acceptance and resilience. The sixth significant event involves the death of Madame Hortense and the villagers' shocking behaviour afterward. This tragic sequence reveals the complexity of human nature and the thin line between civilization and barbarism. The villagers' treatment of Madame Hortense's possessions and memory forces both protagonists to confront uncomfortable truths about human behaviour and social dynamics. The seventh major event centres around the narrator's gradual transformation under Zorba's influence. Throughout their time together, the intellectual narrator slowly begins to embrace a more immediate, experiential approach to life. This transformation isn't sudden or complete, but rather a gradual awakening to possibilities he had never considered. The famous dancing scene near the end of the novel represents the culmination of this transformation. The eighth and final major event involves the eventual parting of the two friends. This separation is inevitable given their different natures and life paths, but it serves as a powerful meditation on friendship, influence, and the lasting impact we have on each other's lives. Their farewell encapsulates the novel's central themes and leaves readers with profound questions about their own life choices and relationships. The first major lesson from Zorba the Greek concerns the importance of embracing life fully rather than merely observing it from a distance. Throughout the novel, Kazantzakis demonstrates how intellectual understanding, while valuable, cannot substitute for direct experience. The narrator's transformation occurs not through reading more books or engaging in philosophical debates, but through witnessing Zorba's unfiltered engagement with existence. This teaches us that true wisdom comes from participation in life rather than detached analysis of it. The second crucial takeaway involves the relationship between failure and growth. Zorba's cable railway project fails spectacularly, yet his response to this failure reveals profound wisdom about resilience and acceptance. Rather than becoming bitter or defeated, Zorba treats the failure as another experience to be embraced and learned from. This perspective challenges our modern tendency to view failure as something to be avoided at all costs, suggesting instead that failure is an essential component of a fully lived life. The third important lesson centres on the power of authentic human connection. The friendship between Zorba and the narrator demonstrates how relationships can transform us in ways we never anticipated. Zorba doesn't change the narrator through lectures or arguments, but through the simple act of being authentically himself. This teaches us that genuine influence comes not from trying to change others, but from living our own truth so fully that others are inspired to examine their own lives. The fourth takeaway relates to the tension between tradition and individual freedom. The novel's various characters struggle with societal expectations and personal desires, often with tragic consequences. The widow's story particularly illustrates how rigid social structures can destroy individual happiness and authentic expression. This lesson encourages readers to examine their own relationship with social expectations and consider where they might be sacrificing personal truth for social acceptance. The fifth key lesson involves the importance of accepting life's inherent contradictions. Zorba embodies this principle by embracing both joy and sorrow, success and failure, love and loss without trying to resolve these contradictions into a neat philosophical system. This approach to life suggests that wisdom lies not in finding perfect answers, but in developing the capacity to hold multiple truths simultaneously. The sixth takeaway concerns the relationship between simplicity and profundity. Despite his lack of formal education, Zorba possesses deep wisdom about human nature and the meaning of existence. His simple, direct approach to life's challenges often proves more effective than the narrator's complex intellectual strategies. This teaches us that profound truth is often accessible through simple, direct engagement with reality rather than through elaborate theoretical frameworks. The seventh lesson involves the courage required to live authentically. Both main characters must overcome fear and social conditioning to embrace their true natures. Zorba's fearlessness in the face of uncertainty and the narrator's gradual willingness to step outside his comfort zone demonstrate that authentic living requires ongoing courage and commitment. This courage isn't about grand gestures, but about the daily choice to remain true to oneself, despite external pressures. The eighth important takeaway relates to the integration of physical and spiritual existence. Zorba's dancing, his relationship with nature, and his embodied approach to life suggest that true spirituality cannot be separated from physical experience. This challenges the Western tendency to view mind and body as separate entities, suggesting instead that wisdom emerges from their integration. The ninth key lesson concerns the importance of mortality awareness in creating meaningful existence. The various deaths in the novel serve not as mere plot devices, but as reminders that life's brevity gives it meaning and urgency. Characters who remain aware of their mortality tend to live more fully and authentically than those who ignore this fundamental reality. The 10th and final takeaway involves the transformative power of mentorship and friendship. The relationship between Zorba and the narrator demonstrates how the right person can awaken possibilities we didn't know existed within us. This teaches us to remain open to unexpected teachers and to recognise that wisdom can come from the most unlikely sources. Zorba the Greek stands as more than a novel. It functions as a powerful invitation to reconsider everything we think we know about living meaningfully. Kazantzakis created a work that continues to challenge readers decades after its publication, forcing us to examine our own relationship with passion, fear, authenticity, and human connection. The book's enduring relevance stems from its unflinching examination of universal human experiences wrapped in the specific cultural context of early 20th century Greece. The novel's greatest strength lies in its refusal to provide easy answers or comfortable philosophies. Instead, it presents life in all its complexity and challenges readers to develop their own responses to existence's fundamental questions. Through the relationship between Zorba and the narrator, Kazantzakis explores the eternal tension between thought and action, safety and risk, conformity and authenticity. Perhaps most importantly, Zorba the Greek reminds us that life is happening right now in this moment, and that our choice is whether to participate fully or remain safely on the sidelines. The book doesn't advocate for reckless abandon or the abandonment of reason, but rather for the integration of intellect and instinct, thought and feeling, caution and courage. This integration represents the path toward a more complete and satisfying human experience. Reading Zorba the Greek is ultimately an encounter with our own potential for transformation and growth. The book asks us to consider what we might become if we had the courage to live as fully as possible, to embrace both the joys and sorrows of existence.